Yes, we are recording, and I will give over to Hans Verhuijden, who will be your host for this academy today.
Welcome everybody, and we have some nice new or almost new features, and I will describe them later in detail, but there are actually three features which are more or less new, and that will help you in managing and making scripting actually easier. The ODIN Script fragments is a way to manage lists, for instance, or pieces of script by storing them in separate files and then joining them in the questionnaire. We have a different way to store answer codes, and we have a new feature to filter the list by the properties of the list, and that will replace the way we used star control now to filter enormous lists just for different purposes. So let's have a look at the first one. And everybody has worked with long lists. That can be brands, can be lists with locations, even all train stations of a whole country, outlets of all the different fast food restaurants, for instance, persons, contact persons, or salespersons, or a complete list with all the postal codes in a country. All these enormous lists. I've seen lists in questionnaires with almost 700,000 different entries. It's nice to have them in your questionnaire, but it is actually better to have them outside. Those who are working a bit longer with our software might already know this feature, because it was actually also used in our Nfield work system, KP, for use on laptops, and actually also for the old, even older panel software we had, and for offline panel. In this case, we place pieces of ODIN Script in separate files. Then we upload them to the system, and then inside the questionnaire we load them at the point where we want them to appear, in this case with the *merge command. And the *merge command was already there, but was never active in Nfield, because we did not have anything in place to put these separate files in a place where we could reach them. And this has now been fixed, so now actually we can upload these using the Nfield API. This is for the companies who are going to automate this process, which for most of the bigger companies will certainly be the case. And alternatively, you can use the Nfield tool, now already available to upload all kinds of things, and download different things as well. And just today we received the latest version, and will be made available, maybe even already tomorrow, which makes it also possible to use the Nfield tool to upload script fragments. What does it look like? First of all, the syntax, quite simple. *merge, just in the position where you want to include all the things you have in your file. Then a position, and that position is necessary if your script fragment contains questions, because then all the questions inside the file will be relative to this position you put in your merge command. And so if you put inside your file in position 2, length 1, and you put here 101 in the position, then it will be actively in position 102. And then the fragment file name. And that is easier in Nfield because you can just give the file name without having actually to know the path. Notes. First of all, you will have to upload the fragment file before the questionnaire. If you don't, you will just receive an error message because some of your constructs in your questionnaire will not be valid. Second, a small thingy is that the fragment file name is case sensitive. So if you use capitals somewhere, also use them in your questionnaire in capitals. Because otherwise you just also will receive an error message. Okay, now let's assume you have a nice list with all kinds of fruits. And then this, you can see we are just starting at the B here. It can be extremely long. And we just put this one in a separate file. And we upload this to the Nfield environment. Then next, in our questionnaire, we just put there our merge fruit list and specify the question, and then just use the star use list referring to the list defined in the questionnaire script. And this way, if you want to update your fruits, you can just do it in the fruit list, upload this again, publish it, and have a new list in the field. And because these kind of lists usually do not change very often over time, and it's possible to keep these up to date by one central person, and then you can just upload them for every project you need them. Instead of using a list, you can also, oops, sorry, knocked against the table containing the telephone. Instead of using just lists, you can use complete questionnaire constructs. For instance, you can also use the all demographic section, put them in one separate file, upload them, and include them with the star merge command. Or another good opportunity is to put a whole translation of a questionnaire inside a separate file, and then just merge the whole translation in one go at the end of your technical questionnaire. If you want to use these in your ODIN developer, because you want to test probably before you start with it, and the latest NIPO ODIN developer has some configuration items for this as well. And when you go into the new latest NIPO ODIN developer, the 5.18.005 at the moment, and the 006 will be soon out as well, I saw. But the 005 already has this option. You can actually specify where it has to look for your fragments. If you want to make it easy, you just put them in your folder where you also are preparing your questionnaire. But more commonly it will be that all your lists, because they will be common to different projects and questionnaires, they are in a separate folder, and then you can specify which folder you want to use for this. Or alternatively, even you can ask it to download it using the API. And then it is more or less the other way around. First you upload your fragments, and then when you want to test it, it will actually download it for you to do the syntax check in the ODIN developer before continuing. For those who are involved in writing their own API calls, and script fragments come with 4 different methods. Script fragments just to retrieve a whole list of all the names that have been uploaded to a certain survey, or script fragments with a fragment name to get that specific fragment, and can use post to post new fragments or update existing ones, or delete to remove one. Notice that the post should always be followed also by an publish, because otherwise the changes to the fragment will also not be reflected in your survey. Okay, like I already said, where you can use your fragments for. One of the most important one is lists, and you probably can already imagine some of the lists you want to put in there, which you want to upload quite commonly to certain surveys. You can use it for common question blocks. Demographic questions is a very good example for this. But it can also be that you have some regular customers who always want the same type of questions in there, and then you can put the same questions in there and maybe only have some variables inside your questionnaire which vary according to the different products of your customer. And like I said, putting a whole language section inside the questionnaire. Any questions regarding this?
Just a reminder, if you have a question, please type it into the chat box. We'll wait about half a minute to see if we have any questions coming in. Just a quick recap of what we have talked about so far. We have one question. First question, if you have a section block question, I need to scroll this up. If you have section block, what question and number and variables need this to be unique?
Yeah, everything inside it has to be unique. Question numbers as well, because actually it will just be inserted inside the place where you put the star merge command. Yeah. And you can. And that also means that you can actually reference these questions in these IDs. Otherwise, it would be impossible. Because it would be unknown. But actually, I just remember one other very often used thing for these. All the font definitions, for instance, is also a nice thing to put in your in one separate file.
Okay, and we have a question: if for which template this is? This is for all templates. This this feature is completely unrelated to templates. It's a pure script. It's a pure script feature. Yeah.
And just to cut it short, everything we are discussing today is for all platforms. All platforms, I mean, it's independent of the...
All Nfield platforms, that is. How does this work with translations? Could you say a bit about that? How does this work with translations?
Apart from the position you specify in it, you will also... can put them inside the translated part. The star merge command can appear as well in the translated part as in the technical part. For instance, you can, for instance, use star merge fruits.en for the English fruit list in the English part, and then use star merge fruit NL for the Dutch translation of the fruits inside the star language Dutch part.
The question is if your fragment has translations. Yeah, so you have questions inside that fragment, and those questions also have translations.
Then you have to put the translations in a separate file, yeah.
Okay.
And include those in the translated part.
Okay.
The whole idea behind the fragments is to keep things as much separated instead of to join things in there.
Okay, what about the positions inside those script fragments? How are they?
They are relative to the position defined in the start merge command and start with 1, like you would have in a subroutine or in a repeat loop.
Yeah.
If you want to fix a piece of fragment easily, just temporarily in the ODIN developer, put the star subroutine at the beginning, star end sub at the end, and then fix the questionnaire, then it will automatically insert the relative positions rather than the absolute positions in your fragment file.
Yeah, and the absolute position, that is the position that you give on the merge command in your script.
Indeed, yeah.
Okay, I think those were all the questions. Let's continue with the next session.
Yeah. Well, the nice thing is always you have long lists or a lot of different answer possibilities. You are going to eat a lot of positions which are available to you in your data. And the longer your list gets, the more data it will eat, especially if you want to have multiple answer possibilities with these questions. So let's first look at how this traditionally looked. Let's assume we have an answer category list using 3-digit codes. And we use there quite often 998 for other and 999 for don't know. Which, in the case of a question with multiple answer possibilities, will then yield a length of 999 positions. And if you're going to put this in a repeat loop, it will also be multiplied by the number of repetitions for this loop. So, this would be the ODIN definition, as most of you will probably know. And if we just then answer some 6 answers, the whole answer data will totally give this 999 positions with only a few spots bold in this picture where the actually information is. This is traditionally the way we saved it, and it is actually also the fastest way to be able to process this in data processing. Now we created a new method where you actually can leave out the star codes. We just specify star multi with positions, a length, and third argument, the number of positions per answer. And so if we look at the previous one, we could specify this then as a multiple with a length of 60, with a length of 3 per answer, and which will give us the possibility to store 20 answers out of this whole list. And that's one thing. We specify here always the maximum number of answers, rather than we can capture all the answers. If we would like to capture all the answers, I would have to specify here a length of 100, what did I say, 1000, or even 3 times, so almost 6,000 positions, almost 3,000 positions. Which then, it's not a good idea.
The old way would be.
The old way, yeah. And so it is, but then you think, okay, what is the maximum number of answers we could actually expect? And there is always a limit, of course. And then again, if we have the same answer possibilities as in previous example, the data will be stored as 004, 009, 014, etc. And that means that it actually will be adjointed positions with preceding zeros. This was already possible in the past, but then you had to use both methods, and then you had to specify star codes with a length, and specify all the zeros and ones, and a multi with positions where then the order of the answers was stored. Well, that is indeed still the case, and here in this case I now have the answers here in the order of the numbers, ordered by the numbers, but if the answers were given in a different order, then also the storing the answers would have been in the order of the mentions. Few notes. The number of positions per answer is a maximum of 9. Well, that's more or less given by the fact that the maximum number, the highest category number normally is 2 to the power 31 minus 1, and that's just over 10 positions, and not the full length of the 10 positions. So, but yeah, that gives you already a possibility for 1 billion answers, so it should be sufficient for most possibilities. The length should be a multiple of the number of answers per answer. If you don't, you will get a warning on this, and it will still store them, but it might be that answers will be truncated or will be misaligned in your data, and so it is always a good idea to use a multiple of your answers. Like I said, if you have more answers than the positions defined, the rest will just be truncated and disappear in a black hole. And the data will be stored in the order of given answers. And there is one note, we can also use this on dummy questions. And in that case, we will usually fill them with star include, and those will not be saved in the data, although they are very useful runtime. The nice thing is actually that they are not included in the data, because in quite a lot of cases you do not even want this information. And that gives also some new possibilities. For instance, let's see, have a look at an traditional issue. Here I have 7-digit codes, which nicely identify my categories. First digit giving me the product group, for instance, the second 3 digits my brand, and the last 3 digits the make of that brand. And it makes it easier to find codes and then interpret codes. And this is nice, but yeah, if this one has to be multi, I will have to use a length of 2 million or exceeding 2 million positions. And indeed, you will get error message position too high in your ODIN developer if you try to use this. But now indeed, we can just define this with star multi and a length of 7 and 7 digits. And this is now a valid construction, and you can indeed use your 7 digits if you like. Making using a very long list a lot easier to handle, and also iterating over these products or brands, etc., can be done based on the product, the real category numbers. And makes iterating sometimes not even possible, because you can actually do it with calculations then. And indeed, just an additional note, 9 digits is still the limit, but should be sufficient for most products. I think the longest digits I ever used for products myself is also 7 or 8. Any questions regarding this topic?
Yeah, I already have a few. If you go back 2 screens. Well, this one is already okay.
Right, go further back. Okay.
One forward again.
Oh, maybe. No.
Yeah. The L70 here, what does that exactly mean?
That we can store the length of 70, and we specify 7 digits per answer, so we can store 10 answers of 7 digits. There we go.
Yeah, so it basically determines how many answers you could maximum store.
Yeah.
What does dimensions DSC do with this format?
That depends on how currently the export of the variables, which are used as the input for the DSC, have not been adopted yet to also allow this syntax, but the DSC itself already has this type of syntax built in already for ages, but most people don't know that it's also possible. No.
The way the codes are stored now is actually much closer to the Dimensions way of storing these codes. Another question, how does this work with a multi-length 999 and repeat all answers mentioned in a question? Again, length 999 multi. The question, the point of this feature is that you do not have to use such huge lengths anymore.
No. You not specify the length 999 anymore, but you are going to make a realistic approach to the number you would really have in your field work. And nobody will give 999 answers.
Okay, the next one, will there be an option in QLib to decide if you want to use the old or the new method? That is actually not something we decide on, that is something Kantar decides on, so we can't answer that. Write a request to Mark LaForest if you want this to happen quickly, I would say.
And that is also actually for the previous topic, the creation of these answer lists and implementing them. Actually, this perfect thing for a library is having all these separate lists and not having to include them in your questionnaire itself. But you can have them available in QLib to just say, okay, I want this and this list to be included in my project.
Okay, then we have a question about the actual syntax of this new question. The syntax of this new question does not require to write star codes. So
no.
We basically now have 2 multi-question types. One simply star codes, star multi, which is the old-fashioned way of storing things, and one only star question, star multi, which will use the new way of storing these features.
And you can still combine those. Yeah. And you might use star codes to store them in the traditional way, and add on top of that star multi with a length and the number of positions per answer category. If you want to store the order, or for instance, if you want to have just the top of mind, you could use this feature, and then you can specify, for instance, if you use example with 3-digit codes again, you can specify then L33, just to capture in the multi the top of mind.
Okay. Then there is a question, if the control statements works as well on these questions?
Yes,
they do.
indeed. Very
both
well.
if you use a control on the statement or if you use this multi-codes question as a control on a next question. Okay, and we have one more. If it is in a loop, where is the second iteration stored? Will it be padded with spaces up to L70?
Yeah, indeed. It will always be in fixed positions. So if you reserve 70 positions here, it will have 70 positions in the data file. And we still use a format that specifies exactly where everything is in the data. Otherwise, you would need to have separators for this information.
It's not a dynamic format. It still is a fixed format.
Yeah, only taking less positions than previously.
And what betreft the controls, yes, it will control loops as well. I think these are all the questions. Let's proceed to the next session.
Okay. This is a real new feature, because the previous one was actually already there partially. We just cut an existing one in half, which makes it nice actually. But this is a real new feature, and quite often you have lists in questionnaires, especially in multi-country questionnaires, where only parts of a list have to be shown. You can think of a list that has to be separated in different product groups, or a list that have all kind of makes in it, but you have to break it down to a certain brand. Or if you have a multi-country study, you can have all kind of outlets where some of the outlets are available in one country but not in another country. Or you can have a list and then based on the preference of the respondent, you can show only parts of that list. Well, traditionally we could only use one of these two methods. Either use separate list for the different items, and then you could actually use the star use list with a variable, so that you actually called the list dynamically. Or you can create a dummy question and then put in all the codes in there for the codes that you want to show or just not to show. This was then really an well, I've seen questionnaires with thousands of lines just to check based on a country, for instance, which codes had to be included or not to be included in this dummy question. And apart from the fact that it's many lines and difficult to maintain, it's also pretty error prone. It's easy to skip some codes, and also it might actually have too many conditional statements in there, and that will then exceed your storage for the what we call the suspend image. Then the system will always want to be able to roll back all the actions, and when this does not fit in a certain number of megabytes, then it will also react your questionnaire. So the boys here, or the development team, thought of a new way to handle this. First of all, I like to introduce you to something that is already there for, well, let's say a year or half a year. It's a new command you can add either to a question or to a category. In this case, we will add these to our categories, and these are called properties. And these properties is just star properties, and then between quotation marks, property equals value, semicolon, property equals value, semicolon, property equals value. In that way, you can assign a category a certain value And this can then be used later in the questionnaire to filter on, or to you can what do you call this? You can put this in a conditional statement. And actually, it's also going to be used in reporting to make it easy here to, let's say, group your different categories based on the properties. And for instance, I can create a brand list and then give every brand a property, whether it's a core brand or not, with just adding my own core brand equals true or false. And then later, if I need to, I can actually filter based on that core brand item. Now, the new trick we have is that we have use list. Next to the list name, we can actually also use property equals value to quickly make a selection of all the categories in the list based on the property. You can actually use more than one property, and then it will be a logical end between these two properties and to drill down to a portion of the list. For instance, quite easy. If I just want to create a list in my question based on the core brands, then I say all brands, core brands equals true, and then it will just show me in this question the categories B and D, because there the property is according to the property I specify here. And but somewhat more complex or more expensive example. And let's assume I have a list with all kind of outlets, and then one outlet is in one country, another country does not have this type of outlet. So I can, for every country, I can specify a Y or an N, Y or not, for being present in that country or not. In this case, for let's say in the Netherlands, Belgium, and Germany. Then I can first ask for a country, and there you can see I also give to the different countries, I give a property, which in this case, the country property of this question 101 coincides with the properties I have in my outlet list. So indeed, for Germany, I don't use Germany in my list, but I use country equals DE. And then I can use the property function inside an expression to get the property of that certain item. The property function works with the first argument, the question you want to reference, then the code you want to reference. In this case, I used Q01 first to reference the question itself, and the second argument, Q101, references the answer to question 101. And then I want to know what's inside the property country. So if I answer category 3 in Q101, it will look up in Q101 the value 3, country, and will return NL. And then in the next question, which outlet did you visit? I can use list outlets, comma, and then start question mark, as country will be replaced with NL equals Y. And I will just see the list with all the outlets with properties NL equals Y. This is already almost complete example, but you can think of lots more of nice ways to do this. where you can actually create those lists in a dynamic way, from instance from a database table or an Excel spreadsheet, and put all the properties in place. Especially if you could combine this as well in combination with the first possibility of fragments, you can make a pretty powerful construction, which is also highly maintainable. Any questions regarding this?
Yeah, we have a few questions about the FAR file that this will produce. First, the properties are also present in the DSC. Yes, and they are already present in the DSC, I think, for more than a year. Yet those properties are also exported to the DSC. If I make a Diana export from this FAR file, are those properties in that FAR file? I don't think so. No, I think those properties only have a meaning in the export in the DSC. Currently, I don't think we can add properties to buttons. No, I don't think we can. I will say, Chris, put a request to Mark so he can put his on the agenda.
Yeah, but buttons are also not affected by controls or name it. Buttons are.
No, but I could imagine scenarios where you would want to put properties on the button. Yeah. But let's put his request to Mark LaForest, and we will see if we can anywhere find room on the roadmap to do this. Any other questions? I don't see any questions coming. Let me start with rounding up then. The first two things that have been shown, the script fragments and the new way of storing codes, are already available at this moment. That works right now. The later, the filtering on properties, that will be available after the next update, which will be early next week. That update will coincide with a change in the online user interface that we will demo right after this session. Also be aware, if you use KP, that filtering part and the new storing and mechanisms only work in the latest KP client. So you need to update all your KP clients if you want to use this for KP. Also, you need to run the latest ODIN developer, because